Internet, and welcome back to Contact, a space engineer's reason to build a giant warship, apparently. And that is what I will be doing today, or at least hopefully getting a good chunk of it done. So, we have the engineering section all built up and ready to rock. 2 jump drives, which are fully charged, which is kind of nice. I guess if I were absolutely desperate, I'd have to put a seat on this, but if I needed to, I could get this whole station to move, beyond just the 1 jump drive I already had. Anyway, got that, got the gyros, everything's built and ready to go. I've started doing a little bit of planning. So, my goal, again, is to make this ship very robust. I need it to be able to survive several hits. So, this inner sort of hull is just that. It's going to be the inner, this is going to be the core, and I want more stuff around it. So I'm thinking I have that, which is the floor of the engineering area. Then I have another deck down here underneath the entire stretch. You know, some of it I may put batteries in here, some of it may well end up just being empty space. But that spacing should hopefully mean that most of the heavy weaponry that I'll be facing won't be able to get through. I don't know if the Factorum is employing anything like a railgun, or I think an artillery turret can pierce through armor. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be light grid just because I'm not insane. I may make some heavy armor sections, actually. Heavy armor is very expensive and a pain to build. You need a lot of materials and all that. So I may not be using it, but we'll just see. I may build stuff and then replace some with heavy armor in key areas. But yeah, so if this is the lower hull of the ship, the next sort of section back I think I'm going to do is going to involve basically a big old empty room. And I do have this. I'm going to want this to be an airlock, I think. So we'll plan for that, and then I may actually do... I can make this airlock compact by having it sort of tee off. That'll eventually make more sense, but there's that, and then I think I just want to... Okay, well that's not... Yeah, it's not much to look at, but I think it kind of showcases the idea. This is just going to be a big old open bay, essentially. I'll probably have like a connector back here connecting to the cargo container. In fact, I may adjust this wall and not have access to engineering through here. I may push the wall back, because I can have stairs that lead down here to get to this back area. Give some more purpose to the lower bit. And yeah, I want somewhere to connect some sort of ship, and maybe a couple ships. But the main idea here, I need somewhere to put all of the big blocks that I'm going to get to move them. So the whole idea with the Factorum folks, they've got a bunch of stuff that you can't build. You get some equipment that lets you build some of the parts, but I'm going to need to transport some large grid blocks around. And I figure the best way to do that is to have a big cargo bay that's open at the back to space. I may put doors in, I probably won't. I'll just have this be basically I'm building a giant space pickup truck. Which, saying that, does make me want to actually make it look like a giant pickup truck. But I'm not going to do that. Giant pickup truck battleship. I don't think this is the series for it. It's going to look like a proper, respectable spaceship. It's just going to function like a pickup truck. Which, to that end, now that I have that sort of shape going, and kind of an idea of the space involved, I think the next thing I'm going to do are some side areas. My idea for these, along the same principle as the decks down here, is I want room in between the engineering core and the space. So I think if this is a deck level, so if I just have maybe a 3-block wide area, my idea is to have these be essentially passageways. So I've got some nice convenient sort of walkways from the front of the ship around engineering and back to this back area. And I may even, because I'll have them probably extending out, I may even have some little like side control areas for this cargo bay. Yeah, I think that'll work. Now I think to blend them in, I have a vision for how this ship will sort of work. So that sort of signifies where all the deck levels are going to be. So we'll have a floor here, then a floor here, one here, and then the roof of the ship here. So that is 4 physical decks with this line of blocks in the dead center. I think what I may do, I have that kind of sticking out. This may not be the positioning of any of these blocks, but yeah, so that's a T-piece. I have this very middle line of the ship sort of poking out like a wing. I can then go with these just because they make more sense. I can have on a little wing 2 turrets connected to 1 pipe. I can run that pipe back into the ship. I can even, I think this will weld both of these turrets. It should weld a block, it will weld a block there, but I think it'll hit both the turret boxes as well. So conveyoring in there, we have a ship repair welder. This is the front area of the ship. So essentially I have these 4, there'll be 2 here, 2 on the other side, so 4 front-facing heavy guns on these little winglets, which I can then sort of from here start blending back into the ship hull. Yeah, that's kind of nice. So I get my 2 sort of conveyor passages. I'll be able to run piping potentially through this wall. Just so it's nice and protected, and I can connect it onto the tanks in here. Which are right at right level, I believe. That is the wrong block. That is the right block. Yeah, so that lines up perfectly. I've got my armaments. I can have some Gatling turrets sort of further back in a similar position. And sort of run that wing all the way back out here as a stylistic feature. This is all probably horrible to see, given the lighting and how the metal things look. I think a sort of slope like that'll work better. Yeah, so ignoring the sun, we have this sort of slope, steepens up a bit to the core of the ship, which will sort of bring forward. This should all offer like good protection for the inner bits. Plenty of room to have passageways and stick stuff. I do think I'm going to have to, if I want to mirror what I've got there, I'm going to need to push this out further. Which probably means it's time to get rid of this stuff and maybe rig up a merge block down here in... I had this lovely stalk to put it on a projector and this whole beautiful idea, but I didn't like how it looked. So I didn't do it. Let's make a drastic choice. Alright, so merge block there. Should have maybe pushed this out before I cut it off, because that would make this process a little easier. Alright. So now we push the whole thing out to its maximum distance. Then I think I'm actually going to... I don't like disconnecting it. I'm gonna have to. So this is 7 blocks out to get to that line. So if I turn that off, reverse that, maybe dump 100 steel so I have room in my inventory again. So that is 7 blocks. So that, okay, well, I basically have just enough room for this. I'll pop our merge block back on. I should, yep, reconnect it. And then I can push things out just a little bit more to there, I guess. No, maybe a little more, so maybe I just extend it out all the way. It doesn't matter. The ship won't quite be in the gantry anymore, but that's fine. Also, the ship may not fit in this gantry. Height-wise should be good, because that's the top and bottom. But it is pretty wide. Alright, now I mirror things. Okay, so I have extended everything out a fair bit. Kind of to the very back of the ship. I'd started doing this and I sort of paused because I was like, well, I don't know if I want this shape going all the way back. And what I do know I want is sideways thrusters. Those are helpful. And with my goal of this being ion based, I'm going to probably want large ion thrusters for side thrust, at least a few. So I figured I'd measure out. So this is the deck that will lead us back, and I guess we probably want the main access points for back here. This wall actually won't be where it is. Just do this to, yeah, this stuff can go. So yeah, that's where that wall will end, which means beyond here is sort of hangar bay. I am thinking that I'll probably have some sort of an airlock potentially back here in the corridor because I'll have room for it. That airlock will essentially section off. I mean, I could. So to carry on this sort of, I don't like having points just touching with nothing in the way because that's, you know, fairly weak in terms of armor. So I have this sort of inner block here. For this open area, I figured I'd do it as a slope, which will give this whole area a bit more of a, you know, big open bay feel. And I guess I could, for this section, get rid of that. That'll be a good demarker for where my little control and access rooms are. So if I go 5 blocks back, that means that there is my wall. And it continues on along this way. So I'll probably have an airlock here that is sort of bi-directional. So I can walk in here. I'll have a door that leads out into the hangar, and then a door that goes straight through into this little chamber, which should work. I guess maybe if I don't care so much about the whole chamber idea. Maybe I just have these open. Changing my mind mid-design here. So I will have an airlock going in there that leads to this, which is just going to be an open platform where I can sort of look out into the area and have, you know, some controls and greebly bits. Beyond that, just cut a little gap so I know where that line begins. So the large grid ion thruster is 2x3 blocks at the back, and then it's longer, of course, but I don't care about the length as much. I guess I sort of do. If I wanted to use these sort of enclosed thrusters, I'd like to sort of recess them in. I'm not going to be able to get a good view of this. I'm just going to do what I'm saying and then explain it. Alright, so there is a thruster. It is actually too deep in, which is good to know. So, I do it right there. So that thruster will be sort of flush with the outer edge of that wing thing. And then I can have a few of them in line back here. Kind of, I think I'm going to recess these in one. I'm going to do some adjusting of the...
No energy.
Once I have power again. So I think I'm just going to adjust how the wing bit moves. I'll narrow it in a bit so that these are flush. But I like having the back of this thruster exposed so it's easy to get into and maintain from the inside. So that's 3 large ions each side. I have room for more, but I won't put them in yet. Let's do our reshaping here. And I may start that reshaping fairly far ahead. Okay, I don't know exactly how this is going to work out for the overall whole shape. But my theory here is I can shift this whole sort of 2x1 slope line in by using these bad boys. Like so. And then that should just propagate down. Okay, we'll stretch this out and see what happens. But can then do that. And then to sort of smoothly go around the thruster, we'll use these bad boys. Then drop it down and now we have a weird inny-outy bit. That should be good. It'll break up the profile of the ship a little bit, which is always a good thing to do when you're designing something. And I guess these just stop being that shape and yeah, those just now widen out. This is all very hard to accurately visualize in wireframe. I'm just gonna weld up a section here. So that's what we've got. So the ship is a block wider out here with the sort of wings. It'll narrow into this little area, which may actually be a good spot for a external airlock. Then the hull widens back out to go around these thrusters and probably just goes straight back to the end of the ship.
Energy low.
Now the only thing to decide is, do I leave that as a little cutout? Or do I dip it in as well? Let's try something here. So the question is, do I have a block that will fit in this space? Because I should. So I have a block for there. And a block for there. I think that's actually just one of these. Aha. So that sort of works. It's still, I mean, from the outside, it doesn't actually look like I've changed anything. But this is a slight slope, and it sort of rolls into this. I think it'll work. It'll look
Energy
interesting at the
critical.
very least. Okay. So while we're on the topic of thrusters, so I have those there. I could just... So if I were to just... stick that there. Then maybe that one... Yeah, forward just a 1. So if I mirror that, I'll have 4 large thrusters forward. 3 side to side. I do still need lifting thrust. Didn't really account for that. That may just be how I do it. Wedge them in where I can. Which may mean adjusting the position of some of these. But yeah, so thrusters in various directions. Need to find a good spot for some down thrust. And then I need to work on the front for reverse thrust. Let's maybe get the front designed. I think how I'm just gonna do it. Got an idea. So if these are sort of wings, I'm gonna bring them around. Maybe bring up the middle. I want to make this, I'm just going to have a rounded end, and it's probably not going to be too far, like it'll end there probably, because I don't need a ton of space up front. Basically, I want a good cockpit area, maybe some, you know, some extra internal room, but I have this upper deck and the lower deck that I can fit, you know, rooms and greebly bits in. So let's just... I'm just gonna extend things up and see where they end. Okay, well, we've got a shape going. I almost wish it were more curved up the front, but it is kind of a tricky thing to coordinate, and I don't know, it kind of works. I could maybe... think I can flatten the very upper bit out, and that'll help it look a little better. Yeah, that looks a little more like a curve. It's very, I don't know, I guess I have Farscape on the brain. It's very Moya-esque. But I think that'll work pretty well. There's not an insane amount of room up here, but as I said, I don't need a whole ton. So I guess the step now is to get... This will be where the command area is. In fact, I bet you... Yeah, I think command... It'll be looking... The back will be looking into engineering. Then... It's not strictly useful in a combat ship, but I want some windows, so... Maybe just 2 like that. Give it a little face. Yeah. Alright, so we have a walkway along here. I think how I'm gonna do this... So, we need stairs around. I'll have on each side kind of leading up to this level. Stairs down to this lower walkway deck. And in practice, I may not bother running the other deck along there. Because I don't need to access the back of up here at all. So we'll have stairs along down to here. Circle around. So this lower bit may open this out. This lower bit will just be engineering access. It's not necessary, but I like the idea of sort of having that slope so that this all flows into this front chamber. Then if I block off here, I can have stairs going down to get to the very lowest deck. So you'd come up here, go out there, fill all this in. Yeah, so you can start down here on the lower deck, which will, I don't know, I'll fill it with something. Then you come up, you can circle around, and I'll probably close this stuff off. So you have engineering access. Then you can go around and go back. Oh god, that was disorienting. You can go back to the cargo bay hangars, and I guess that's a downside. If I have this area be where docking port is, means I don't have this outer area. So maybe that's not what this is. But anyway, so you can go back or you can go up, which will get you to the main bridge. And then I also need... I need to be able to get up to the upper deck, which... If I do like this whole thing's gonna get a little awkward, I think. Because I'd like to have nice headroom. What actually is... Yeah, so that block has to be what it is. I could do this and you just have a very tight corridor to get up. Eh, it's a fairly tight ship, so I mean it's not, but I think it'll work. I don't even know what's going to be up there. It's probably not going to be anything critical. So stairs there. We have that stuff. And then I like having sort of, you know, high ceilinged areas, especially in what feels like sort of the command deck. So we'll do like that. I don't want these windows to be wide, but I'm tempted to... Nah, we'll just go like this. And then up top side, we'll sort of just fill in that. So the very upper deck, you come up and you immediately have to turn to look at whatever will end up being up here. That should be good. Keeps everything sort of divided apart. I guess I should finish those. I may be able to sprinkle some windows in here and there. But it is supposed to be a combat ship, so shouldn't have a ton of windows. And I may... So my plan is have the main cockpit like block be right here. Which is... Yeah, there's a fair bit of armor in between the front of the ship and it. It is a bit of a risk putting a cockpit for a combat ship at the front, just because the front part is generally what the enemies, you know, are hitting. And it should be decently armored. There's a lot of stuff around it, and I can always put either somewhere in engineering I could put an emergency helm, or I just have a remote control block somewhere back here that, you know, worst case, I can just find any old seat or just stand on the thing and take control of the ship. I've also done some plotting with thrusters. So these are, you know, the small large grid thrusters. But I figure if I have them kind of sprinkled throughout in convenient areas, I can actually... Yeah, if I cut out this bit... So I can actually stick. That would be 6, so 12 with both sides down there. I can do a similar thing. Along the top. And they'll line up pretty well with this sort of slope, which should help blend them into the whole design and gives us a reasonable amount of up and down thrust. So I think the last thing I'll do here, yeah, I probably want some vents. I'm gonna try and do a little bit of planning, populating out this lower deck and potentially start on the upper deck. So these are essentially here just to provide an armor gap, but I'd like to put some things like, you know, maybe down here is where the living area is. I do want one of them. I should probably weld it too. So I want conveyor access, or, you know, I want to run conveyors down here, mainly because I want some sort of big lower facing gun. My goal, if we look at the sort of front profile of the ship, so I've got 2 guns there, 2 guns there. If I can also fire with a gun kind of at the top and bottom of the front, that would be 6 large guns that I can train on whatever thing I'm approaching. Keeps my ship's profile as small as it can be, while putting all my firepower basically dead forward. And I'll probably also want some Gatling turrets around, primarily for defensive capability. But to do that, I need a conveyor tube. Which I could run... Maybe I run through the floor. Because I like leaving deck space open when I can. So I plan for a gun port there, and then one back here coming off of that. This may work out decently well. And I have a floor-mounted O2 vent here that'll do air for all of engineering. Ooh. Maybe I just have this be the air column. So I have that there, then one there, and then conveyor junction there to keep everything airtight. Then I've got air up here for, well, down here for this deck. I can connect the two with some nice straight armored pipes. So I think down here on this lower level, I'm gonna make this the sort of bunk and living area. Oh, should it also, it should probably also have access to in here. If I were to have a wall like that, that's kind of tight and awkward. If I have my hallway down the middle, so you'll walk around the vent. I may not do the vent as I've done it there. Have a vent there. On the other side, it's covered by the cargo container, so you don't see an awkward thing. It means I can use these guys for my pass-throughs, which I think will look a little better as these sort of pipe columns, and it makes this walkway less awkward. So, how many rooms can I get if I have them be 4 blocks? We could have 2. I think I could get 3 in sort of awkwardly here. So that needs to be, oh no, that'll work. Yeah. I can get 3 rooms per side in awkwardly. Leaves this area, which I'm going to want to do.
Critical.
With that, so I can put a half door in there for the airlock. Yeah, so I have a room there, there, and then these 2 are sort of there and there, slightly offset. Oh, nuts! That's not where my wall is. My wall is one back from that. I forgot.
No
And I'm
energy.
out of power. Alright, crud. So if this is my back wall, that pipe is not in a convenient spot. Okay, maybe what we do... So we have 2 rooms where people share. So I'll have 8 of these beds. And yeah, I think we'll have a little bit of asymmetry going on back here. on one side we'll have some armories. Then on the other, and I may have chosen... Yeah, I think I chose the wrong sides for things. So this side we'll have some armories, so we have some sort of suit and equipment storage. Then we have the ever important bathroom. There. With room that I can have a bathroom door leading into it. What is above this? And it's just sort of open passage. That shouldn't be an issue. I'll have an inset light above this. That way I can have light in the bathroom. Okay, that should be a good population of that area. Can set up airlocks going back here. I could even rework this. So I'll have a vent facing that way. That'll be our cargo pass through. And that, I will have a cargo container, except I don't have interior plate. I'll have room for a cargo container there, which will be sort of in the main hangar bay, so we have cargo access. And then I can plan to have my airlock vents either side here. Which doesn't leave a ton of room with the bathroom where it is, but you know, it'll work. So last thing, I was starting my outro actually, and I realized I'd forgotten probably something rather important, and that is reverse thrust. So I've not done myself many favors with this design in terms of stuff that's going to look good. I think my best bet may be to just stuff 2 thrusters in here. This is something I really should have done before the interior work, because I may have to change that interior work now. But does that... Yeah, that all is connected, so I shouldn't cut anything off. Yeah. It's not perfect again, but I think it's the best we're gonna get.
Energy critical.
It makes this corner really awkward, because that's just open to space. Down here is actually, it's a little circuitous to get around, but it's not horrible. Though again, this corner's... I mean, the solution's just gonna be doing an angle. It makes some of these passageways really tight for what should be a fairly large ship. But I think it'll all work. It'll do what it needs to do. You can still get around, and we do have, like, there's plenty of access because there are stairs on each side. That corner looks like garbage. I may rework some of this stuff to make it look a little better. The other thing I could consider here would be some thruster pods. Essentially have out the back, instead of it being a fairly uniform, smooth shape, have little jut out things. Actually, I found a decent solution to my lifting thrust, but actually, the pod solution could solve that as well. Yeah, actually, I'm liking this. It's a fairly simple. It just basically is 6 thrusters, so I get more forward thrust, which is always good. Gives me a reversing thrust, and I can put my lift. And if I mirror this, quad mirror it and have 4 of these, that's a crap ton of thrust. Probably more thrust than I have power for. These things are power hungry. And maybe I figure out a new reactor setup. But we can figure that out in the future. For now, I think this is a pretty good stopping point. I'm probably gonna just build most of this off camera, get everything filled out ready to rock, because it's gonna be a lot and it's gonna be boring. But yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. Feel free to check out the other stuff I've done. Tune in next week to hopefully see this thing's maiden voyage. Until then, bye bye.